right? I see Paris as well. So I've been waiting to use that line since 6 o'clock.
All right.
And even though we don't have Nostradamus, I have a feeling we're going to take a little trip into the past, aren't we, Mr. Chris?
Yeah, I want to touch on a couple things real quick. Sort of, the terrorism thing is a real threat. So we'll just have to be on alert for that, especially during the month of Ramadan, as the Muslims of the Islamic State deliver their message of peace. NASCAR. I want to talk NASCAR for just a minute.
I like it already.
Get her done.
Get her done. That's right. They're getting her done in NASCAR. They're losing viewers and fans left and right. No other major sport has been losing fans as quickly as NASCAR. Their fan base is down like almost a quarter, almost 25%.
I didn't realize that, but maybe that's because I'm black. But
Well, that's. I want to talk. That's one reason why I want to talk about it. Okay, because they're getting caught up in this Confederate flag stuff. All right, Bill France, and he is the ancestor of what was the France that started built Daytona Raceway over there? It wasn't Bill France Sr., was it? Might have been Bill France Sr. Anyway, Bill France, the descendant of the man who basically started NASCAR. They used to race the cars up and down Daytona Beach over there. And they did that because, you had some sort of hard-packed sand, and the cars could actually get up to speed and not get bogged down in the soft sand.
Bill France Sr.
Bill France Sr., okay, yeah.
Original.
Yeah, the original Bill France. And, of course, went on to build the Daytona International Speedway. And their fan base really was always, Southern rednecks.
Sure.
Yep.
And they first into a little bit into the Northeast, and then into California, and then into Nevada, and now they're pretty much all over the country. And for a while there, it was working really good, and the fan base was building. They were growing faster than any other sport. You saw them on TV every weekend. They had a race today, and you didn't find it on TV unless you have Fox Sports 1.
Really?
Yeah. And the same last week. Now, I presume that the Firecracker 400, and I don't care what they call it now, I will always call it the Firecracker 400, because that's what it was originally called. The Firecracker 400 is going to be run Saturday, I think 4th of July day, actually, in Daytona at the Speedway. And I presume that will be on Fox or ABC or ESPN at least.
Or maybe even NBC.
Wasn't the original name the Propane Tank 400? I'm pretty sure.
That was in Tavares.
I apologize.
He's talking about the redneck party up in Tavares when the Rhino factory went off up there, Blue Rhino. But no, the Firecracker 400 is going to be run Saturday, and Bill France does not want any Confederate flags at the racetrack. Now they're trying to figure out how they can go about doing that, because the fans bring them. They're sort of stuck with, are they going to take them away from the fans, or are they just going to discourage the fans from bringing them and not allow the concessionaires, the drivers, or anybody like that to have any part to do with the Confederate flag?
Does that include rebel flag bikinis? Are they going to confiscate them at the door? I'd be very curious about that.
Should make an exception.
Let me tell you something. If Daisy Duke showed up in a General Lee, there'd be more black people there than you could ever imagine. It was funny. I was listening to a sports show yesterday, or I thought I was listening to a sports show, and they started talking about NASCAR, and I almost started to turn. I actually love fast cars, but NASCAR just is not appealed to me. And so anyway, they started talking about the Confederate flag, and it became an entire segment. And I thought for sure I was listening to a different show for a second. I mean, these guys were like, they were seriously upset that people would consider bringing or continue bringing the Confederate flag to NASCAR events after what happened. And I was upset by it. I was like, this is political correctness run amok. Now, I can tell you that as a black person, besides watching the Dukes of Hazzard, which I absolutely loved growing up, but when I came out from Los Angeles to Florida and I would see people flying a rebel flag, there was a visceral reaction. There really was. It was just weird. It was awkward. I had never seen anything like that before, and I automatically assumed, would these people kill me in a back alley in Longwood?
Right.
But no, it would not happen.
All right, but I'm like, okay, having grown in my faith and grown in knowledge of the Constitution and freedom and all that kind of good stuff, you're like, hey, people are free to believe no matter whether they believe it's about heritage, whatever. To me, it is about secession and traitorism and so on, et cetera. But I'm like, hey, you believe what you want to believe.
It's kind of like, you know, I kind of look at it sort of like a scarlet letter. It's like, do you want the people that hate you to be undercover, or do you kind of want to know who they are? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, if these people are full of that kind of, if it is racism motivating it, I just soon know who they are.
Yeah.
Than have it hidden, you know. And if they're going to fly the flag, and it's like, look at me, I hate blacks or whatever. Well, then okay, let us all know all about it. We'll know who you are, and if we don't like that, we'll be sure to stay away from you.
And honestly, it's the wrong approach in my opinion. If you look at country music. Country music has been hitting the mainstream. I listen to some country music. Yes, I said it. But I listen to some country music because you have people like Nelly and Florida Georgia Line that came together, and you know it was a really cool song. And as a result of not just that song, but Darius Rucker, whom I like, and stuff like that. Yeah, it used to be Hootie and the Blowfish. So honestly, it's weird to me. I don't think that NASCAR has to do what they're doing. I think they need to. If you go to L.A., for instance, maybe NASCAR needs to be people that are racing 64 Impalas. You know what I mean?
That's what I want to get to. Because, let me just jump right in here. Because what Bill France Jr. is trying to do is he's trying to broaden the fan base of NASCAR. He wants to bring in blacks and Hispanics in particular. They're pretty, you know, they're still pretty strong in the South, although they've been losing fans in the South too. And they think that their appeal is still, you know, caught up in Southern racism or something like that. You know, but
why do you think it is? Why?
Because they are not racing the way it's supposed to be raced. They call them stock cars.
Okay.
Well, first and foremost, they're the farthest thing from stock car. Stock car racing, it was a stock car meant that you could go down and buy one off the lot.
Okay.
All right, that was a stock car.
Right.
The racers took that stock car and then used their know-how to turn that thing from 120 miles an hour into 200 miles an hour.
I guess.
Right? All these race cars today are basically factory-pressed, same things. You look at them on the track, the only thing different are the decals. Even the lights that look like lights aren't lights. They're decals.
Just like dirt bikes. I love dirt bikes. And
they're all the same. And the idea was, let's make them all the same and the racing will be better. No, the racing's lousy. The reason people are falling away is because it's boring as god-awful hell.
I'm just waiting for a right turn.
Yeah.
That's all I want, one right turn.
Well, they got
the road course.
All of the competition and ingenuity, it's become a communist support. Because they're all deemed they have to race the same thing. You see? We don't want somebody outdoing somebody else with their skill and know-how. Why? We can't have that. Well, then you can't have a fan base who's going to appreciate the fact that one team can be a whole lot better. Look at football. In football, you've had basically the New England Patriots been a dominating team for how many years
Why
now?
do you have to bring up the Patriots?
Yeah,
the viewership and the fan base is bigger than it's ever been.
Sort of insulting, actually.
I'm with you, man.
The bottom line is,
Patriots
sometimes it's better to have dominant like that because it drives the hatred in the fan base in the other cities.
Yeah, that's true.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Sometimes it's better to have a dominating team in NASCAR because then everybody loves to hate him.
Yeah.
You see? So they're totally lost. They think that their fan base is all about political correctness. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. came out and said, I can't see why anybody fly the Confederate flag. Well, the hell with you, you SOB. You wouldn't be where you are right now if it hadn't been for all those fans buying all those tickets all those years and loving your papa and your grandpapa. No, wouldn't have happened. You need to be a little bit more respectful there, sonny boy. But the problem with NASCAR is it has become a communist sport. When you say that all the cars have to be exactly the same, you have taken really all the competition out of it. Yeah, I hate to say it, but when a little 5'0" girl can get in there and keep up with the big boys, there's something wrong. I'm sorry to say.
You seem very passionate about this.
Well, they've made it a communist sport.
Maybe we should start deflating the tires and the cars, make a deflate gate for NASCAR.
You know, I used to go to the races back when I was in high school, in the early years out of the high school, and my buddies all went over there a long time after I did. They'd go over there, you know, with the box trucks so they could sit up on the top in the infield, and all that's lost. It's all gone. And part of it's gone because people just can't really connect with the drivers like they used to. Back in NASCAR's heyday, you had fans who were as loyal to the manufacturers as they were to the drivers. You had Fulton, as they used to say it.
Toyota?
Well, I know you didn't have Toyota, but even that's how they say it.
Now you have Toyota.
But see, you don't have people loyal to them. They're loyal to the driver, maybe, but they're not loyal.
They're very loyal to the driver.
Back then, you had fans of Chevrolets, and all they wanted to drive was a Chevrolet. All they cared about was Chevrolet. And if their driver went to a Ford team, they weren't their driver no more. All right, you had Ford fans. You had the Chrysler Dodge Mopar fans. You know, and the reason they were fans of those technologies is because they could see the difference in those technologies and the other technologies on the track. You can't see that anymore. And all the engines are built by the same manufacturer. It's a communist sport. That's why they are losing their fan base, and doing away with the Confederate flag ain't going to make a hill of beans of difference.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I'd like to know when NASCAR was at its peak, but I agree.
It was in the early 2000s.
Early 2000s, okay.
And then they went to the car of tomorrow.
Well, that was also done because of safety. That was also done out of safety concerns. Because if you think about it, that's when Dale Earnhardt Jr. went into the Dale Earnhardt Sr. went into the wall, and then they got the Heinz device, and then they ended up going to the car of tomorrow.
No, that's not why they changed the car to the car of tomorrow. You could have had the same safety devices in any of the cars that were on the track or any stock cars today. It was because they wanted to level the competition, thinking that it would make the races closer and more exciting.
I'll bring this up in the next hour, but I have another issue with your argument here.